I want to share with you a few fair credit lines of credit that pull Equifax. So here's a review I want you to pay attention to. So the very first bank that pulls Equifax for a fair line of credit is basically Truist. And what we love about Truist is that Truist, they will start you with a FICO score of 600. Sometimes it can be 610, 615, but 600 is about the average. So Truist is kind of cool because Truist gives you three options when it comes to a line of credit for a fair credit. So you can have an unsecured line of credit, you can have a secured line of credit, and the third line of credit, they call it the Truist Ready Now credit line. So the Truist Ready Now credit line is kind of for overdraft. So if you want, let's say you have, it's like a smaller line of credit. Let's say you have overdraft or you have unforeseen expenses, you can use that Ready Now line of credit to sort of cover that. So if you're listening to me right now and you don't have like a large expense coming up, but you still need to have some kind of buffer, monetary buffer, you want to go with the Truist Ready Now line of credit. So here we are talking about amounts that go from $300 all the way to $7,500. There are no transfer fees, but you got to have a Truist checking account to actually qualify for this Truist Ready Now credit line. So that's for the small amount. Now let's talk about the regular unsecured line of credit from Truist. Here you are looking at $5,000 all the way to $100,000. So this is unsecured, not a problem. You can actually apply in person at a branch. You can apply in person, or you can apply over the phone, not a problem. And so right now you don't have the option to apply online for an unsecured line of credit. Or if you want to apply right now over the phone, just call 1-844-487-8478, 844-487-8478, and they'll take care of you. Everything goes real fast. So that's option number 2. Option number 3, you can just collateralize the line of credit. So here we have a secured line of credit, and here you have lines starting at $25,000 all the way to $1 million. And if your collateral is above $1 million, Truist will work with you, not a problem. Okay, so those are the 3 options I want you to think about when you think about a Truist fair credit line of credit that pulls Equifax. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. We are going to have a great conversation about fair credit lines of credit that pull Equifax. The thing is with Truist, there are other lines of credit. So besides the 3 that I just spoke to you about, the unsecured, the secured, and the Ready Now Truist, you have other lines of credit that you might qualify for. Who knows? And so, but this is actually what we call a niche line of credit. For example, Truist has a physician line of credit. So this means what? If you are in healthcare and you want to, let's say you are looking for a line of credit at the personal level, not at the business level, at the personal level, Truist will take care of you. So here you have a $50,000 maximum line of credit for medical residents and fellows. And if you are a board certified physician, dentist, or, like you work in healthcare and you are board certified, you can actually qualify for a maximum line of credit of $100,000. Again, here we're speaking about unsecured. It's unsecured. There's no collateral that you have to post. Okay, so the APR is kind of cool. So you're looking at 13% on average, and so you can have this line of credit. You can use it for anything. I mean, Truist doesn't have that doesn't actually impose any restrictions at all. You can use the cash for debt consolidation, for home improvement. You can finance a large purchase. You can basically have you can use the line of credit as an extra buffer for purchasing power. So this is fine. And if you are interested, you can apply in person. In other words, you go to a branch, or you can call the number that I gave you earlier. And that's the same number, 844-487-8478. And then they'll just walk you through. Okay. And one thing I need to say here is that Truist has another line of credit that is secured, but it's totally different from the first one. This line of credit is secured only applies to Truist customers that are actually there are premier customers. In other words, you are going to deal with the premier banker, which means that your deposits must be a little consequential. So basically, Truist doesn't have like I would say a minimum for premier banking, but we think based on our experience that $10,000 all the way to $50,000 in minimum deposit will qualify you as a premier customer. So this is really good. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about fair credit lines of credit that pull Equifax. Another bank that pulls Equifax is Fifth Third Bank. So besides Truist, you have Fifth Third Bank. And what we love about Fifth Third Bank is that we love the flexibility. So when you think about Fifth Third, you want to think about flexibility, but most importantly, you want to think about great customer service. Great customer service in addition to generosity. Why? Because Fifth Third is giving you unsecured lines of credit from $5,000 all the way to $100,000. So this is kind of cool because you don't have a lot of, first of all, you don't have a lot of big national banks. I mean, Fifth Third is not a big national bank, but it's a big regional bank. So you don't have a lot of big regional banks that offer up to $100,000 in lines of credit. So this is kind of cool. But the only thing is Fifth Third wants you to have like it's not really 100% unsecured because Fifth Third wants you to post up to 10% of verified liquid assets. Now, those assets are not being like Fifth Third is not mandating, is not requesting you, is not requiring you rather to post those assets as collateral. However, Fifth Third just wants to make sure that you have some money. That's all. Or you have some valuable assets. Okay. So when you think about Fifth Third, you want to think about an unsecured line of credit that pulls Equifax. You have a 5-year draw period followed by a 10-year repayment period. So overall, you're looking at 15 years in total. And when we analyze the APR for Fifth Third, it's kind of decent. I mean, we think it's a little high if you compare it to the national average. But hey, listen, you are looking at 1075 to 1225. If you have good credit, you can actually go into a single-digit territory. This is totally possible, and we have seen that. But just be aware that Fifth Third charges. They charge a yearly fee on this line of credit, the unsecured one. Now they will waive it the first year for you because it's just like a nice gesture, a favor or whatever. But the subsequent year, the second year, and going forward, you'll have to pay $65 every year on if you keep an unsecured line of credit. It doesn't matter the amount. In other words, if you get approved for $5,000 or you get approved for $100,000, you're still paying $65. Okay. And Fifth Third makes it a lot easier for you to access the funds. So you can access the funds via online transfer, checks, phone, or you can go to a branch and request the money. Not a problem at all. So if you're interested in this unsecured line of credit, you can call right now 1-866-671-5353. So you can actually just request an appointment and you can schedule an appointment and they'll take care of you. What will happen here is that they'll have a banker from Fifth Third work with you. They'll ask you all kinds of questions and to just to understand what you really are after. But again, this is really good. So besides the unsecured line of credit from Fifth Third, you have another line of credit for fair credit that pulls Equifax that's also from Fifth Third. And this one is the secured line of credit. So if you remember, I just told you that for the unsecured, the amounts was limited to what? To $100,000, right? So it goes from $5,000 all the way to $100,000. Now, if you want to have a larger amount, you can get it through by securing the line of credit. And so here you have a larger amount. You are looking at Fifth Third will give you like $5,000 all the way to $500,000. And for a secured line of credit, they don't have to pull Equifax anyway. They might do it, but they don't usually do it. They might do it, and so when we talk about $5,000 all the way to $500,000, this secured line of credit can be 50% all the way to 100% collateralized. In other words, Fifth Third will work with you, and based on your situation, they might accept that the secure line of credit is not 100% collateralized. Okay, so but the only thing is that the funds that are securing the funds that are collateralizing this secure line of credit must be funds in your Fifth Third savings, CD, or investment account. So this is important. because Fifth Third wants to make sure that they control the collateral. They have to control the collateral. They have to see it. So the money must be held at Fifth Third if you want to get this unsecured line of credit. But you're looking at a very large amount, a very consequential amount. You're looking at $5,000 all the way to $500,000. And so you have a 20-year drop period with balance due at the maturity. So this is what it is. You have interest only monthly payments. And the APR here is a little lower because it's collateralized. So, you're looking at 8.5% all the way to 11.25%. And so there is no $65 annual fee that is waived the first year and then applicable the second year and subsequent years. No, there are no fees here for this secure line of credit. And so, this is kind of cool. So if you're interested, just contact Fifth Third and they'll work with you. It's the same number, 1-866-671-5353. Fantastic. They're really fast too, though. Now, if you are not interested in secure line of credit, you also have a signature loan through Fifth Third. They call it signature loan. So this is the unsecured loan. The maximum amount here is actually $25,000. I mean, it goes from $2,000 all the way to $50,000, or it can be capped at $25,000 if you apply online. And so that loan can be unsecured or secured. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about fair credit lines of credit that pull Equifax. I want to talk to you about the third bank that you might be interested in if you are looking for a fair credit line of credit that pulls Equifax. That's KeyBank. And so when you think about KeyBank, I want you to think about a very nimble, a very flexible lender. And KeyBank. The thing about KeyBank is that they're really fast, but they're not that generous. They're really fast, but they're not that generous, because basically, if you go to Fifth Third, you will get a maximum line of credit of $25,000. Actually, the range goes from $2,000 all the way to $25,000. It is a fair credit line of credit that pulls Equifax. This is really cool, and but we love the fact that there is no annual fee. So unlike the Fifth Third, the KeyBank line of credit does not charge you any fee at all. But again, the amounts are not the same, right? I mean, you got to really think about that. So the amounts are not the same. And one thing I need to also say is that you have to really sort of account for the maximum amount. Do you need $25,000 or do you need more? If you need more, you might need to go to another bank. And I'm not even talking about the fact that KeyBank is also, KeyBank, similar to Truist, similar to Fifth Third, is also geo-restricted. So KeyBank is not a national player here. So, but again, so you got to be lucky to be in the geography that KeyBank covers. So KeyBank is currently available in Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, Idaho, Indiana, Massachusetts, Maine, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Vermont, or Washington State. You got to be in one of those states to qualify for this KeyBank unsecured line of credit. And the official name for this unsecured line of credit is preferred line of credit. So when you call KeyBank, if you have a conversation with them, and if they ask you what are you looking for, what kind of loan you're looking for, just ask for a preferred line of credit. One thing I also need to say also is that you gotta be a customer first before qualifying for this line of credit. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. So it's one of those things you got to really see what really works for you. Okay, you got to see what works for you, and you have to also be ready to provide all kinds of documentations, because KeyBank loves to be a little thorough during the underwriting process, and they might ask all kinds of paperwork. So just make sure that you give them to them. I want to talk to you about another line of credit that's called the Key Basic Personal Line of Credit. We're still talking about KeyBank here. So KeyBank has two lines of credit that pulls Equifax. And so you have the Key Preferred line of credit, and then you have the Key Basic Personal line of credit. The thing about the Key Basic Personal line of credit, this is kind of similar to what the Truist was offering, the Truist Ready Now. So it's basically a small line of credit that allows you to take care of a few things here and there, like stuff happens, whatever. So here you're looking at $250 to $5,000. So that's the range that you're looking at here. And so of course you are able to there's no collateral needed. And the thing is that KeyBank wants you to have a relationship with them. But other than that, you are free to manage the account the way you want it. You can access your loan statements, you can check your balance, you can transfer funds with online banking. You have flexible payment options, including automatic payments. This is kind of cool. And you can use this cash. You can use this KeyBank personal line of credit to cover you can use it for overdraft protection with your KeyBank checking accounts. This is totally fine. But yeah, just be aware that the amount is kind of limited. So we're looking at $250,000 to $5,000. What we have seen in our experience is that you use this KeyBank Key Basic personal line of credit if you already have another line of credit from KeyBank and you're just trying to diversify. Like some people don't want to mix things up, so you can use this Key Basic personal line of credit for overdraft and other things, and you can use a regular KeyBank line of credit for other stuff. Either way, you win anyway, because KeyBank is really flexible. They'll work with you. They'll make sure that you get the best service that you need, and this is really, really fine. That's what we love a lot, the flexibility. I want to talk to you about another bank that offers a fair credit line of credit that pulls Equifax, and that's BMO. So BMO Harris Bank. So when you think about BMO, now BMO is not as present in more states as the other three. In other words, BMO is more like all the other three were already geo restricted, but BMO is more geo restricted. And one thing I want to say here is that when you think about BMO, just think about the fact that their maximum line of credit is around $50,000. But the thing is, you gotta be a BMO customer for at least 2 years, like 18 months to 2 years. Now they're not going to say it when you start, right? They're not going to deny you just because you haven't been a customer for that long, but they will look at your application more thoroughly, quote unquote, more thoroughly, if you know what I mean, right? So it's just a lot better to start cultivating a relationship right now. If you think that maybe a year from now you will want to apply for a BMO line of credit. And so, by the way, you can also start the conversation by calling BMO at the 1-888-340-2265, 1-888-340-2265. So you are able to do a lot of things. And that number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can get all the answers when you need them. And this is really good. And one thing I also want to say about the BMO line of credit is that not only does it pull Equifax, it also does tend to approve you real fast. So it'll approve you real fast, like within 2 to 3 days, which is really fast for a bank, right? So it is what it is. And BMO Harris does not actually place restrictions on the use of the use of line of credit proceeds. In other words, you can use the money for a variety of things. You can use the money for a home improvement. You can use the money as a large expense. You can use the cash to consolidate your debt. You can use the money to for vehicle acquisition. You can use the money for refinancing. You can use the money for building or establishing credit. So again, the possibilities are there. It's totally up to you. It's totally up to what you want to think, what you want to do with it. But yeah, it is totally fine. All right, let's quickly recap here. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about fair credit lines of credit that pull Equifax. So I actually share with you 4 banks that actually do that. You have Truist, you have Fifth Third, you have KeyBank, and then now I spoke to you about the BMO. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.